Shall we move on to the Less Wrong posts?
Yeah, a couple of fun ones. These are
Yeah.
lighthearted and a good time. You want to start with Zombies, the movie?
I do. This is a script for a movie which is hilarious and I love it. And it's about a zombie invasion, except the zombie virus turns people into philosophical zombies, where they're identical in every single way, except they no longer have consciousness, apparently.
Exactly. And there's a few fun little Easter eggs. You know, the zombie invasion just started 28 days ago. And fun fact, yesterday I was watching the movie 28 days later.
Oh, it's so good.
Because I think next month, or maybe sometime next few months, 28 years later is coming out.
Oh, shit.
Don't worry, it hasn't been quite 28 years since the first movie, but I'm afraid it's been close.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, let me know when you see it, if it's any good.
I will. The second one was really good, so I have high hopes for the third. But yeah, the premise of this is like you said, they turn into pea zombies, and I don't want to spoil the ending, so I won't. But there's some great lines. You and I both pulled out one of the same ones. The scientist says, "We're dealing with an epiphenomenal virus." General Fred, "Are you sure?" Scientist, "As sure as we can be in the total absence of evidence."
This entire post is just comedic gems like this.
Yeah.
The scientist replies a little bit later, "They've tried every placebo in the book. No dice. Everything they do has an effect."
And then they, of course, have to call in David Chalmers, who says, "This is a complete bastardization of my work." And then they're like, "You're a zombie." And he's like, "No, I'm perfectly fine. I've been introspecting on my own consciousness, and I can't detect any difference. I know I'd be expected to say that, but..." Then the doctor turns away from the glass screen in horror. His words, they don't mean anything.
It's fucking great. It fills my heart with joy to see someone ripping on a stupid idea like pea zombies in this way. This is exactly what would happen if someone claimed to not be a pea zombie.
Or claim to be one.
Yeah, either way. There's nothing you can prove either way because it's epiphenomenal.
Yeah. And, no spoilers, but Daniel Dennett does show up with a katana, so...
All right, that was a fun post. Not much to say about it, aside from go and read it. You will probably laugh.
Yes. I think you'll also laugh at the second one, which is a lot of fun and a similar kind of vibe, but this one actually has a lot of great meat to it. 3 dialogues on identity.
So he is trying to set up an intuition pump, I think, basically, right?
Yeah.
So he brings up there's some primitive tribes that think that photographs can steal their souls. A tribe is being visited by a researcher, and this tribe in particular detests being lied to. If they ever find out that someone has lied to them, then they're like persona non grata in their society. If they're an outsider, they get exiled out. They hear about this photograph stealing souls thing. And so the chief asks the researcher, "Have you, by any means whatsoever, by any device, produced an image of anyone here?"
And he had to phrase it exactly that way.
Because then the researcher's like, "Well, I mean, shit. My eyes and my retina are constantly painting image in my visual cortex." So due to the fact that he knows they really want complete honesty all the time, he's like, "I haven't made any pictures the way you mean it. You asked a deeper question than you know, according to the beliefs of my people."
I think that's the line that I liked a lot, and because it comes up in 2 of these at least. And so he's giving like this kind of him-hawing answer, and the guy's like, "Why aren't you just saying no?" It's like, because I can't lie, but also no, I haven't taken your picture. But you guys don't know what happens when you look at things.
Yeah, exactly. And so ultimately the shaman wants to cut down to the root of the issue, and he's like, "Look, that's nonsense. Just tell us, do we still have our souls since you came amongst us or not?" And the guy's like, "Oh, fuck. It's the teaching of my people that what you call a soul is a confused idea."
Yeah.
And then the poor dude gets exiled.
He keeps saying, "I've painted no picture and used no camera. Have you caused a picture by any other means?" Damn it. No, not the way you mean. And so like, it's exactly the kind of conversation, if you're having this with like a police officer or an interrogator, these kind of answers would get you grilled, right?
Yeah. Then when he asks, do we have souls? The guy's like, "Well, no, but that's not because I've been making pictures.
I didn't take them. They just weren't there before."
Yeah, exactly. The poor tribesman and the poor researcher, just too many inferential gaps.
Yeah. Well, it's not just the poor tribesman and researcher. We then move on to the second conversation with John Smith, who was cryopreserved and then restored about 35 years later, but for a subjective 24 hours, so he's just kind of reeling and getting back on his feet, we might say.
And he also, like the tribesman, does not want to be lied to. So he says, "Look, I don't want to be told any comforting lies. If you can't tell me, just say nothing." And then he asks, "Have I been uploaded? Have I been turned into a program? Am I an algorithm somewhere?" And the guy talking to him, the cryo unfreezer guy, says like, what were you before? A constant integer?"
Fuck you, pal.
Because, like, yeah, we're all algorithms somewhere. So John says, no, no, no. I mean, am I made up of the same atoms as before or not? This gets back to the recent posts we had about there are no individual atoms. So the guy tries to tell him, you may be laboring under certain basic misconceptions.
You know what I like about that line too is it reminds me of one of the great scenes in it would have been Order of the Phoenix. They come to arrest Dumbledore. I remember the line because it was awesome. They're going to arrest him, or they're like interrogating him about Dumbledore's army, which is Harry's group that they put together to teach actual defense classes. Then when they're just like, all right, well, come along, Dumbledore. He's like, oh, you seem to be laboring under a serious misunderstanding. I have no intention of coming quietly.
Nice.
But yeah, so John, he's like, look, am I made of the same atoms? Yes or no? You know, whatever the stuff I am made of, is it the same stuff as before? What's a
Yeah.
bummer is that I can see he just needs to phrase his question a little differently, and they could get a real answer.
I mean, maybe he says, whatever stuff I am made of, is it the same stuff as before? Yes or no? And they just don't have a way to answer that due to the fundamental wrongness about thinking about stuff, that atoms are individual things that you can identify rather than places where there's concentrations of probability mass.
Yeah, but he could ask a question like, you know, am I running on the same level of reality I was running on 35 years ago? Am I still a complicated wave function, something, or
Mhm.
am I running on a different substrate? And you know, he asks about the hardware. I don't know. I feel like he was this close to getting the right question.
Mhm.
Whereas I think the gap here is smaller than it was with the tribesmen and the.
The dude seemed to be oddly attached to his own physical body, which I mean I've seen with some cryonicists, and it feels strange to me.
I share this the sentimental attachment to my meat suit,
Yeah,
even though I don't like it most of the time.
right.
If I were to change, I at least want to know. I mean, you don't even need to get quantum to be confused, like the way that he's asking this. You know, am I made of the same atoms? And it's like, no, you weren't made of the same atoms 5 minutes before you died. And also, then you get quantum when you say, what do you mean same atoms? But
Right.
what he could ask is, you know, am I made of what scientists in my time called carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, etc. Right? And they'd be like, oh no, you're running on electricity now.
Well, this does get us into the final dialogue. It's Eliezer waking up kind of in the same situation, I think. He is conversing with some powerful entity in the future. He says, look, is the thing I'm holding an old fashioned banana, or does it only have the appearance of a banana? And the entity says, rest assured that you are not holding the mere appearance of a banana. There really is a banana there, not just a collection of atoms. Which raises a lot of questions. It very much reminds me of the line in the Rationalist Matrix that was part of the Omake files, where Neo, after learning, that everything he was learned in the Matrix was wrong, asks for a real physics textbook so he can figure out how the real world works. And Morpheus says to him, "What makes you think that the universe runs on math?"
Right. Or I think he says the real world doesn't run on math or something. But yeah, same.
Okay.
I only remember it because it was delivered in Drake Walker's delightfully deep, booming voice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Neo, the real world doesn't run on math. So I think I understand the banana question and I understand the answer. But what's fun in this post is that then, you know, after he says there is a real banana there, not just a collection of atoms, and then there's a
Mm-hmm.
long pause and Eliezer says, what? Or
Mm-hmm.
perhaps that was only a joke, is the reply. But I think what he's saying is like, look, no, this isn't just a representation of a banana like the one you pick up in Skyrim, right?
No, I think the intended implication here is that it's not just a representation of banana like the one you pick up in Skyrim or the one you pick up in the real world in 2025. The implication is that that atoms themselves are a simulation and we just don't know it yet, or that the real world runs on spirit and the logos or something, and turns out that the Gnostics were right all along. Like, just that reality is so fundamentally different from what we think of reality is that just imagine if that were to happen to you, like what would happen to your brain, and be ready for it.
And you know, we can't rule out the possibility that we'll come across that sort of paradigm shifting discovery at some point.
Yeah.
I was about to say it's not clear at all to me what that could possibly mean, but that is exactly the point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not clear to the hunter gatherer guy what it would mean for what do you mean my soul doesn't exist? I'm an expert on souls.
Yes.
And it's not clear to John Smith that no man, the stuff I was made of before, I'm not made of that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And so yeah, things might be different. This is just a fun and short cautionary tale on Some of what you believe is true and some of what you believe is false. This may also be said of the hunter-gatherer. And I do like this though. There's a difference between yourself and the hunter-gatherer, which is this. You have a concept of what it means for a fundamental assumption to be mistaken. The hunter-gatherer has no experience with other cultures that believe differently, no history that tells of past scientific revolutions. But you know what is meant, whether or not you accept it. You understand the assertion itself. Some of your fundamental assumptions are mistaken.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't know how to respond to that news. I guess I'd want to ask which ones, and then sit down for an 8-hour explanation that I wouldn't understand.
This brings me to sort of like a meta content question. Like reading these two Less Wrong posts again reminded me of like, oh yeah, these used to be really fun. I kind of miss that. I want to get through the quantum sequences maybe as fast as possible here and just touch quickly on what each one is saying in the future rather than trying to really dive into them, especially because they're kind of getting over my head. And because I think, as Eliezer even kind of hints at here, this may not be our true final understanding of the universe as it is.
Yeah, I support that decision. But I do commend, and now that we're especially this far in it, this isn't mere sunk cost. This is now I want to finish for the sake of having finished it.
Hmm.
We will finish the quantum physics posts, but I'm also eager to go. We'll move through them quickly, but we'll still move through them.